Hello? There we go. Ugh. Moving around between channels and changing hardware and all that sort of stuff can be a bit of a pain sometimes. Yes, just a little bit. Uh, it's not a great position, is it? Maybe just down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, this is we're still fiddling around trying to get all this working. Okay, so today we've got quite a big job actually. Being chapter 12 of The Invisible Man, but there's a lot of interaction between different characters. I think that I've got everything all set up nicely. Hang on. No, not quite. Got to plug in the microphone first. There we go. That light means it's live. And then we load up the recording software. But what I have done that's quite clever is I have a Windows Media Player ready with the samples of all the characters that I'm going to need. Ha! So we should be all right. Should be all set. The recording device set to Yeti. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello, how are you? Yep. Okay, so that's all working. Good. All right. I cannot see your chat live if you're out there and commenting, but I have arranged for it to go up on the screen. So you can talk to each other and comment on how shiny my head is. I don't know. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to record it straight through. Any characters that I remember and are easy to do and are strong, fresh in my memory, I will just do live while we're recording. But any that are a bit wobbly, we'll go back, revisit afterwards. I think we're going to be okay, but we'll see. All right. Everybody ready? Here we go. And recording. Chapter 12. The Invisible Man loses his temper. It is unavoidable that at this point the narrative should break off again, for a certain very painful reason that will presently be apparent. While these things were going on in the parlour, and while Mr. Huckster was watching Mr. Marvel smoking a pipe against the gate not a dozen yards away, Mr. Hall and Teddy Henfrey were discussing in a state of cloudy puzzlement the one eeping topic. Suddenly there came a violent thud against the door of the parlour, a sharp cry, and then silence. "Hello," said Teddy Henfrey. "Hello," from the tap. Mr. Hall took things in slowly but surely. Surely? Why did I suddenly go American? Mr. Hall took things in slowly but surely. "That ain't right," he said, and came round from behind the bar towards the parlour door. He and Teddy approached the door together with intent faces, their eyes considered. "Summat wrong," said Hall, and Henfrey nodded agreement. Whiffs of an unpleasant chemical odour met them, and there was a muffled sound of conversation, very rapid and subdued. "You all right there?" asked Hall, rapping. The muttered conversation ceased abruptly for a moment's silence, then the conversation was resumed in hissing whispers, then a sharp cry of, "No, you don't!" There came a sudden motion, and the oversetting of a chair, a brief struggle, silence again. "What the deuce? Exclaimed Henfrey, sotto voce. "You all right there?" asked Mr. Hall sharply again. The vicar's voice answered with a curious jerking intonation. "Quite right. Please don't interrupt." "Odd," said Mr. Henfrey. "Odd," said Mr. Hall. "Says don't interrupt," says Henfrey. "I heard un," said Hall. "And a sniff," said Henfrey. They remained listening. The conversation was rapid and subdued. "I can't," said Mr. Bunting, his voice rising. "I tell you, sir, I will not." "What was that?" asked Henfrey. "Says he will not," said Hall. Weren't speaking to us, was he? Disgraceful, said Mr. Bunting within. Disgraceful, said Mr. Henfrey. I heard it distinct. Who's that speaking now? Asked Henfrey. Mr. Cuss, I suppose, said Hall. Can you hear anything? Silence. The sounds within indistinct and perplexing. Sounds like throwing the tablecloth about, said Hall. Mrs. Hall appeared behind the bar. Hall made gestures of silence and invitation. This aroused Mrs. Hall's wifely opposition. What are you listening there for, Hall? She asked. Ain't you nothing better to do, busy day like this? Hall tried to convey everything by grimaces and dumb show, but Mrs. Hall was obdurate. She raised her voice. So Hall and Henfrey, rather crestfallen, tiptoed back to the bar, gesticulating to explain to her. At first she refused to see anything in what they had heard at all. Then she insisted on Hall keeping silence while Henfrey told her his story. She was inclined to think the whole business nonsense. Perhaps they were just moving the furniture about. I heard un say disgraceful, that I did, said Hall. I heard that, Mrs. Hall, said Henfrey. Like as not, began Mrs. Hall. Hush, said Mr. Teddy Henfrey. Didn't I hear the window? What window? Asked Mrs. Hall. Parlour window, said Henfrey. Everyone stood listening intently. Mrs. Hall's eyes directed straight before her, saw without seeing the brilliant oblong of the inn door, the road white and vivid, and Huckster's shop front blistering in the June sun. Abruptly, Huckster's door opened, and Huckster appeared, eyes staring with excitement, arms gesticulating. Now this I have to look up. I don't remember Huckster. He's a tiny, tiny character.
He ought to have it cauterized at once, said Mr. Huckster, especially if it's all inflamed. What's happened?
Right, who's that one? Okay. Yup, cried Huckster. Stop, thief! And he ran obliquely across the oblong towards the yard gates and vanished. Simultaneously came a tumult from the parlour and a sound of windows being closed. Hall, Henfrey, and the human contents of the tap rushed out. Hall, Henfrey, and the human contents of the tap rushed out at once, pell-mell into the street. They saw someone whisk round the corner towards the road, and Mr. Huckster executing a complicated leap in the air that ended on his face and shoulder. Down the street, people were standing astonished or running towards them. Mr. Huckster was stunned. Henfrey stopped to discover this, but Hall and the two labourers from the tap rushed at once to the corner, shouting incoherent things. And saw Mr. Marvel vanishing by the corner of the church wall. They appeared to have jumped to the impossible conclusion that this was the invisible man, suddenly become visible, and set off at once along the lane in pursuit. But Hall had hardly run a dozen yards before he gave a loud shout of astonishment, and went flying headlong sideways, clutching one of the labourers and bringing him to the ground. He had been charged, just as one charges a man at football. The second labourer came round in a circle, stared, and, conceiving that Hall had tumbled over of his own accord, turned to resume the pursuit, only to be tripped by the ankle just as Huckster had been. Then, as the first labourer struggled to his feet, he was kicked sideways by a blow that might have felled an ox. As he went down, the rush from the direction of the village green came round the corner. The first to appear was the proprietor of the Coconut Shy, a burly man in a blue jersey. He was astonished to see the lane empty save for 3 men sprawling absurdly on the ground. And then something happened to his rearmost foot, and he went headlong and rolled sideways, just in time to graze the feet of his brother and partner following headlong. The two were then kicked, knelt on, fallen over, and cursed by quite a number of over-hasty people. Now, When Hall and Henfrey and the labourers ran out of the house, Mrs. Hall, who had been disciplined by years of experience, remained in the bar next to the till. And suddenly the parlour door was opened and Mr. Cuss appeared, and without glancing at her, rushed at once down the steps towards the corner. Let's check Mr. Cuss.
That chap at the inn.
Right. Hold him! Hold him! He cried. Don't let him drop that parcel! He knew nothing of the existence of Marvel, for the Invisible Man had handed over the books and bundle in the yard. Oh. Weird grammar in these old books. He knew nothing of the existence of Marvel, for the Invisible Man had handed over the books and bundle in the yard. The face of Mr. Cuss was angry and resolute, but his costume was defective, a sort of limp white kilt that could only have passed muster in Greece. Hold him, he bawled. He's got my trousers and every stitch of the vicar's clothes. Tend to him a minute. Tend to him in a minute, he cried to Henfrey as he passed the prostrate huckster, and coming round the corner to join the tumult, was promptly knocked off his feet in an indecorous sprawl. Somebody in full flight trod heavily on his finger. He yelled, struggled to regain his feet, and was knocked against and thrown on all fours again. He yelled, struggled to regain his feet, was knocked against, and thrown on all fours again, and became aware that he was involved not in a capture, but a rout. Everyone was running back to the village. He rose again and was hit severely behind the ear. He staggered and set off back to the coach and horses forthwith, leaping over the deserted huckster, who was now sitting up on his way. Leaping over the deserted huckster, who was now sitting up, on his way. Behind him, as he was halfway up the inn steps, he heard a sudden yell of rage, rising sharply out of the confusion of cries, and a sounding smack in someone's face. He recognized the voice as that of the Invisible Man, and the note was that of a man suddenly infuriated by a painful blow. In another moment, Mr. Cuss was back in the parlour. He's coming back, Bunting, he said, rushing in. Save yourself! Mr. Bunting was standing in the window, engaged in an attempt to clothe himself in the hearthrug and a West Surrey Gazette. Who's coming? He said, so startled that his costume narrowly escaped disintegration. Invisible Man, said Cuss, and rushed on to the window. We'd better clear out from here. He's fighting mad! Mad! In another moment, he was out in the yard. Good heavens, said Mr. Bunting, hesitating between two horrible alternatives. He heard a frightful struggle in the passage of the inn, and his decision was made. He clambered out of the window, adjusted his costume hastily, and fled up the village as fast as his fat little legs would carry him. From the moment when the Invisible Man screamed with rage, and Mr. Bunting made his memorable flight up the village, it became impossible to give a consecutive account of the affairs in Epping. Possibly the Invisible Man's original intention was simply to cover Marvel's retreat with the clothes and books. But his temper, at no time very good, seems to have gone completely at some chance blow, and forthwith he set to smiting and overthrowing for the mere satisfaction of hurting. You must figure the street full of running figures, of doors slamming and fights for hiding places. You must figure the tumult suddenly striking on the unstable equilibrium of old Fletcher's planks and two chairs, with cataclysmic results. You must figure an appalled couple caught dismally in a swing. And then the whole tumultuous rush has passed, and the Epping street with its gourds and flags is deserted, save for the still raging... unseen and littered with coconuts, overthrown canvas screens. Is deserted, save for the still raging unseen, and littered with coconuts, overthrown canvas screens, and the scattered stock in trade of a sweetstuff stall. and the scattered stock-in-trade of a sweetstuff stall. Everywhere there is a sound of closing shutters and shoving bolts, and the only visible humanity is an occasional flitting eye under a raised eyebrow. Under a raised eyebrow in the corner of a window pane. The Invisible Man amused himself for a little while by breaking all the windows in the Coach and Horses, and then he thrust a street lamp through the parlour window of Mrs. Gribble. He, it must have been, who cut the telegraph wire to Adderdean, just beyond Higgins' cottage on the Adderdean road. And after that, as his peculiar qualities allowed, he passed out of human perceptions altogether, and he was neither heard, seen, nor felt in Epping any more. He vanished, absolutely. But it was the best part of 2 hours before any human being ventured out again into the desolation of Epping Street. All right, so that's the end of chapter 12. My plan now is to go through all those minor characters. Most of them are okay. Unfortunately, Dr. Cuss and Teddy Henfrey are pretty close to each other in voice. The only real difference, they've both got this high-pitched voice here, only Teddy Henfrey is sort of at the back. And Mr. Cuss is at the front, that's the only real difference in sound, right? So it's a little bit tricky. But that's okay. Now we'll run through all the lines. Okay, so Teddy Henfrey, let's make sure we've got his voice.
Seemingly not.
Seemingly not.
If the police was one year, you couldn't be more
ropped and bandaged.
Oh,
So he's a bit nasal, almost stuffy, like he's got a cold or something like that. Hello! What the deuce? What the deuce? Odd. Says don't interrupt. Undersniff. What was that? Disgraceful. I heard it distinct. Who's that speaking now? I heard that, Mrs. Hall. Shh! Didn't I hear the window? Parlour window. Okay, Mr. Hall I'm pretty confident of, but just in case I messed one up, so I can come here and cut it in. That ain't right. Something wrong. You all right there? You all right there? Odd. I heard him. Says he will not. Weren't speaking to us, was he? Mr. Cuss, I suppose. Can you hear anything? Sounds like throwing the tablecloth about. I heard him say disgraceful, that I did. Okay, now Vicar Bunting.
What's happened?
What's happened?
Story.
It is a most
seemingly
remarkable
not.
story. Okay, Mr. Bunting. Quite right. Please don't interrupt. I can't. I tell you, sir, I will not. Disgraceful. Who's coming? Good heavens. That's a very silly voice. I do like it, though. Now the Invisible Man, weirdly, I've made him like this. And then you just have to remove the voice and do it. Remove the hand, and you get the voice again. No, you don't. Mrs. Hall, again, pretty confident, but just in case. What'd you listen there for, Hall? Let's just make sure.
The poor soul's had an accident or an operation or something. What a turn them bandages to give me, to be sure.
That's a pretty bad sample, actually. What you listening there for, Hall? Ain't you nothing better to do, busy day like this? Like as not. What window? Okay, Huckster.
They ought to have it cauterized at once, said Mr. Huckster.
They ought to have it
Especially if it's all
cauterized at
inflamed.
once.
What?
Yup! Stop, thief! Now, Mr. Cuss.
That chap at
Dr.
the inn.
Cuss.
Give me something to drink. What?
That chap at the inn. Give me something to drink. Okay. Hold him! Don't let him drop that parcel! Hold him! He's got my trousers and every stitch of the vicar's clothes! Tend to him in a minute. He's coming back, Bunting! Save yourself! Invisible man! We'd better clear out from here. He's fighting mad! Mad! Okay. There we go. Feeling pretty confident about that. That's all right. So, delete. TIMC12, master, export. It's only 10 to 10. I'll nip over to the computer in a bit and we'll start on the second part. Export. Delete. TIMC12. Edit A. There we are. All right. We'll set this to uploading in a moment. And I'll meet you over at the computer. See you in a bit. Hello, can you hear me there? Yes, good, good, good. All right, let's kill that webcam and get over here. All right. Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome to the big stage. Editing the master thingy of the WhatsApp that does the stuff in the places with the things. But oh, Stephen, what? I hear you cry in anxious anticipation. That's not the software we're used to seeing. No, it's not. This is SoundForge Audio Studio 15. Normally we use 12 down there for the mastering, but there's some stuff that this one can do, which I think will be very useful. Let's just try and find. Right. Okay. So we'll take that. We will paste that into a new file. That's okay. Boom. Right. And that's just all the characters if we need them. All right. So back here, and we this one can do some automatic stuff. That's kind of cool, but not necessarily trustworthy. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I've only done one chapter using these tools so far. I think it was a short story. Yeah. Okay. Right. Now. Right. It does supposedly have something where it can like automatically, you know, detect low patches and mute it and that sort of thing, try and get rid of breaths and all that sort of stuff. I'm not that good with it yet, so it's still going to be moderately basic for the editing. It's one thing I don't like about this one, quite apart from the fact that I haven't got the keyboard's shortcuts set up. The fact that it treats each track separately, right? You have to select them both if you're going to make some sort of change. Let's see if we can. No, where can I change the keyboard settings? Wasn't in there, was it? Oh, come on now. Ugh. It doesn't do the super cool little fade in, fade out thing that 12 does either. Really, I should probably save this and go to 12, which I'm more used to. I mean, 15 does some cool automatic stuff. Yeah, yay, hurrah. But, I'm just not used to it. I don't know how to make it work properly. Of course, the whole reason that I upgraded to 15 in the first place was just, oh, yeah, yeah, we do want to 12 and save as type loud, please. What's that? That? There we go. Okay. Characters. There we go. Okay. Yep. Okay, the whole reason I switched over to 15, sorry, I started dribbling a little bit there, was that 12 kept crashing on me. It was a little bit unstable, a little bit unreliable, and I was like, oh, I'll upgrade to new software because I was young and naive and I didn't know that software developers don't fix their programs when they're bugged. They just put out a new one and say, buy the new one! Like, will that fix my problems? Don't ask questions, just buy the new one! Okay, great, thanks. It does definitely work on some consumers, though. I remember complaining that one of my old phones was a bit too slow, and some guy I was talking to said, "Well, just go out and buy a new one." And I had to tell him we had just bought these phones; they were new phones, and he was a good little consumer, wasn't he? Doing what the companies told him to do all the time. What an idiot! Mr. Hall took things slowly but surely. I mean, basically, that's the job that 15 is supposed to do by itself, but you have to set like the noise level, the acceptable noise level, and I'm not quite sure how that works yet. And every time I play, because my voice modulates a lot while I'm performing, I can be very loud or I can be quite quiet as the mood determines. And the software has a bit of difficulty, and I keep finding that it snips off, the end of words and stuff like that. So I'm still trying to find the perfect level for me to minimize the amount of manual editing I have to do. Henry Hall, Vicar, Tim, right, Mrs. Hall. So it's just back a bit from there. Henry was first, right? Yeah. There. Not terrible. I'm pretty confident with Mr. Henry. The Vicar, right. For Tim. Oops. Not terrible, but this one's better. I think that's the Invisible Man instructing the Vicar to take off his clothes. Strip, Vicar, strip! an old cliche, that line, hey? punting? Where's punting? Well, that did sound all right. But we'll just check. That'll be a better version. Oh, wait, was that? No, just before. Okay. I think that one's fine. Yeah, I want the more ridiculous one. I do have to check those phone messages. Not sure when you're going to be watching this, but yesterday there was one of the largest earthquakes on record in Russia, and the shockwaves are spreading throughout the world. Ah, there you go. Right, Alice and I were awoken by emergency messages last night sent out over the emergency broadcast system, which is everyone's phones, of course. And they were sent by glitch. We were sitting there wondering why they were sending the same message that they'd already sent. Oh well, doesn't matter. They apologized. Yay. I would rather get too many messages than not enough, so I'm okay with that. No. Fuck. What have I done? Just make my life harder. All right. Recording and master edit complete. Now we'll come back tomorrow and do the sound effects edit, I think, because yeesh, that's going to be a big one. That's going to be a big one. A lot of action happens in here. Yeah. God damn, all these changes in hardware. Alright, so thanks for coming along. I hope you have enjoyed this stream or found something useful, or both. We'll be back tomorrow where we'll do the sound effects edit of Chapter 12. Until then, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, 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 bye.